Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we sift through stacks of amazing sources to bring you the core insights you can use.
And today, we're diving into something truly fundamental, wouldn't you say? The power of words. Oratory.
Absolutely. Think about it for a second. Have you ever heard a phrase, maybe a speech, or even just one idea that completely shifted your perspective, changed how you felt, what you did, maybe even changed the course of a whole country?
It happens, and it makes you wonder, what is it about words? What gives them that incredible force?
Exactly. That's the core question we're exploring today in this deep dive into the enduring power of oratory.
Yeah, we're going on a bit of a journey here. We'll look at how words persuade, how they motivate, how they, well, move us. From the ancient Greeks debating rhetoric all the way to modern leaders and even personal growth thinkers.
And the sources we've pulled together, wow, it's quite a mix.
It really is. We've got, the foundational classical text, Plato's dialogues grappling with the ethics of it all, some world-changing historical speeches.
And even contemporary guides on things like self-improvement and influence, things you might see on the bestseller lists today.
Right. It's eclectic, but the mission is clear. We want to unpack the mechanics of persuasion, think about the ethics involved, and really grasp the impact, sometimes obvious, sometimes subtle, of a well-crafted message.
Our goal, really, is to help you understand what's going on under the hood whenever someone's trying to sway an audience.
Whether that's a politician on a stage, a boss rallying the team, or, just you trying to inspire a friend, there's an architecture to influence.
And we're looking for those aha moments today, the insights that reveal how that architecture works so you can spot it, understand it, maybe even use it effectively yourself.
Definitely. So where should we begin? The foundations.
Let's start right there. The foundations of eloquence, the craft of persuasion. Let's head back to ancient Rome, maybe. Cicero comes to mind immediately.
Oh, Cicero, absolutely. The gold standard for many. And what's interesting about Cicero is that he didn't just see oratory as like a practical tool for winning court cases or debates.
No, it was more than that for him.
Much more. He saw it as an art form, something requiring beauty, elegance, almost a delightfulness. He talks about it in the Oratory. It wasn't just about being useful. It was about creating something beautiful with language.
And that famous triad of goals: to teach, to delight, and to move. Docere, delectere, movere.
Exactly. Movere, to move.
Yeah.
That was crucial. It wasn't enough just to lay out the facts, the logic. Quintilian echoed this too. A great orator had to connect emotionally.
Play upon feelings, as Quintilian put it.
Right. You had to delight the audience, capture their imagination, stir their emotions, empathy, anger, hope, whatever fit the purpose. To lead them not just to agree intellectually, but to feel convinced, to want to act.
It's a much richer picture than just, making a good argument, and involves the whole person.
Totally. But of course, not everyone in the ancient world was so enthusiastic about rhetoric's power. Plato, famously, had some serious reservations.
Ah, yes. Plato's skepticism, particularly in the Gorgias dialogue, right?
Precisely. In Gorgias, Plato, through Socrates, really pushes back against the idea that rhetoric is inherently good. Gorgias defines it as the art of persuasion about justice and injustice in public assemblies.
Sounds reasonable enough on the surface.
But Socrates drills down. Is it about producing genuine knowledge of right and wrong, or just conviction, just making people believe something, whether it's true or not?
That's the core of his worry, isn't it? Persuasion without truth.
Exactly. He feared rhetoric could become just a knack, an unsystematic knack, as he calls it in Phaedrus, for flattering the audience and persuading them without any real understanding or commitment to truth, like cooking pleasing food that isn't actually nourishing.
So it could be manipulative, leading people astray.
That was the danger he saw. If it's divorced from philosophy, from the pursuit of truth, it's just manipulation. In Phaedrus, he talks about true rhetoric needing to understand the soul, to lead the soul, psychagogia.
Leading the soul. That sounds much dipper.
It is. For Plato, real education, real soul leading wasn't about swaying crowds. It was about a deep one-on-one philosophical dialogue, guiding a student towards understanding truth.
A much more intimate, truth-focused process.
Right, so any public speaking, if it were to be considered true rhetoric by Platonic standards, had to be deeply rooted in philosophical understanding and a commitment to what's actually good and true, not just what sounds good or feels persuasive in the moment.
It's a powerful challenge. How do we know if we're being led towards truth or just skillfully persuaded? Still relevant today, I'd say.
Incredibly relevant, especially now. But moving from Plato's philosophical deep dive, we have Quintilian, who gave us something much more practical.
Institutio Oratoria, almost like a complete A to Z guide for the aspiring orator back then.
It really is a monumental work. He breaks down the whole process into those famous 5 canons or components:
Invention, arrangement, style.
memory and delivery, inventio, dispositio, elocutio, memoria, pronunciatio, the whole package. It shows just how complex they saw effective speaking being. It wasn't just one thing.
And he had some really interesting techniques within that, didn't he? I remember reading about ocular demonstration.
Ah, yes. Evidentia, or ocular demonstration. It's brilliant. The idea is you don't just tell the audience about something, you make them see it.
Like painting a picture in their minds.
Exactly, but even more intense. You describe it with such vividness, such detail, focusing on how things happened, that it feels like it's unfolding right there before their eyes, appealing to the inner eye, not just the ear. It creates this powerful sense of immediacy, presence.
I can see how that would grab an audience, make it unforgettable.
Totally. And he also talked about using rhetorical figures, things like allegory, synecdoche.
Not just fancy decorations, right? They had a purpose.
Definitely purposeful. Quintilian saw them as ways to add depth, richness, and variety to language. Allegory lets you convey complex ideas or moral lessons through a story. Synecdoche, where a part stands for the whole, like boots on the ground for soldiers, allows for conciseness and evocative imagery.
So using all hands on deck means the whole crew.
Precisely. These figures allow, as he put it, many things to be realized from one. They make the language work harder, resonate more deeply.
And crucially, it wasn't just the words themselves. Delivery was key for Quintilian too, the physical part.
Absolutely essential.
Hmm.
He stressed that your gestures, your facial expressions, your voice modulation, everything had to align perfectly with the thought and emotion being expressed.
So no awkward, out-of-sync hand-waving.
Right. The gesture should start and end with the thought. Your whole body becomes part of the communication, conveying sincerity, passion, conviction. Without that congruence, the words lose their impact.
It's fascinating how holistic their view was, mind, emotion, body, all working together.
It really was. And what's striking is how these ancient ideas about conviction, belief, and moving an audience find echoes in, well, much more modern thinking about influence and personal change.
That's a great transition. Let's talk about that inner game. Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret comes to mind, that core idea.
We become what we think about. So simple, yet profound. Nightingale argued that our dominant thoughts shape our reality. If you consciously set goals, focus your thinking, you essentially program yourself for success. You start attracting opportunities, what might even look like good luck.
It's just persuasion starts internally, convincing yourself first.
In a way, yes, your mindset creates your path. And Tony Robbins really doubles down on this idea of internal belief systems.
Right, in Unlimited Power. He talks about beliefs as more than just thoughts.
He describes them as filters, shaping how we perceive the world, but also as direct commands to our nervous system. A limiting belief, like "I can't do that," isn't just an opinion, it's an instruction that physically holds you back.
But the good news, according to Robbins, is that these aren't fixed.
Exactly. He argues passionately that you can change limiting beliefs through new experiences, consciously challenging them, learning new strategies, and crucially, through physiology.
How you use your body.
Yes. Changing your posture, your breathing, your physical energy levels. Stand tall, breathe deeply, move purposefully, even if you don't feel confident initially. Adopting the physiology of confidence can actually shift your emotional state and break those limiting patterns. It's influencing yourself from the outside in. That mind-body connection is powerful. Influence isn't just verbal, it's physical, internal.
Definitely. And connecting this to influencing others, Simon Sinek's concept is key here.
Start with why.
Right. Sinek argues that the most inspiring leaders in organizations don't lead with what they do or even how they do it. They start by communicating why they do it, their core purpose, their cause, their belief.
Like the Wright brothers example he uses.
Exactly. They didn't just talk about building a plane. They communicated their passion, their belief in pushing boundaries. That why is what attracted followers, investors, people willing to stick with them through failure after failure.
Because people buy into the belief, the purpose, not just the product. Precisely. Communicating your why taps into values, into identity. It creates loyalty and connection on a much deeper level than just talking features and benefits. It resonates with the core of who people are.
It really challenges you to dig deep. What is your why before you even try to persuade or lead?
It's foundational. Okay, so we've seen how words shape our inner landscape, our beliefs. Now, how about recognizing potential outside ourselves? Specifically, right where we are. Russell H. Conwell's lecture.
Acres of diamonds, a classic.
And such a counterintuitive message for many people.
Totally. His core idea, delivered literally thousands of times, was that opportunity isn't usually out there somewhere else. It's right under your nose. In this country of ours, he'd say, every man has the opportunity to make more of himself than he does in his own environment, with his own skill, with his own friends.
Look in your own backyard first.
Essentially, yes. Don't assume the grass is greener elsewhere. Recognize the value, the potential in your current situation, your skills, your community.
And that story he tells to illustrate it, Ali Hafed, it's unforgettable. It really is. Ali Hafed, the Persian farmer, living contentedly until someone tells him about diamonds. He gets obsessed, sells his farm, leaves his family, spends years searching fruitlessly, and dies poor and alone.
And the irony.
The devastating irony is that the man who bought Ali Hafed's farm later discovers diamonds in the stream on that very property. It turns out to be the Golconda mine, one of the richest the world has ever known.
He was literally living on top of acres of diamonds and abandoned it all.
A powerful, almost tragic illustration of overlooking the potential right in front of you.
And he had a more modern American example too, right? Something about a mining engineer.
Yes, the Massachusetts story. A young, brilliant Yale mining engineer offered a decent job, but scoffs at it. A man with a brain like mine working for $45 a week. He sells his family homestead to chase riches out west.
Don't tell me.
You guess it. The person who buys the homestead finds a huge chunk of native silver embedded in a stone wall right on the property. A wall the professor had probably leaned against countless times.
Oh, it's painful, just sitting there.
Exactly. So Conwell's message was profoundly about local engagement. Be great here now. He practiced what he preached too.
How so?
Before giving his lecture in a town, he'd spend days talking to local people, the postmaster, teachers, factory workers, to understand their specific situation, their history, their opportunities. Then he'd tailor the Acres of Diamonds message to them.
Making it directly relevant. Smart.
Very. And he believed the speaker needed more than just facts or stories. You needed genuine enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm invites enthusiasm, he said.
Right. And beyond that, a real, large-hearted regard for the welfare of his audience. You had to actually care about them. He also noted the skill involved, easy to get a laugh, harder to bring people back to sober thinking and action. It's about connecting than guiding.
That connection between recognizing potential around you and unlocking potential within you, it leads us right to someone like Les Brown. His personal story is incredible.
Absolutely. Les Brown's journey is a powerful example of overcoming external labels and finding those internal acres of diamonds. Being labeled mentally retarded in school. That's a heavy burden.
Immense. But he talks about a mentor, Mr. Washington, who changed everything.
Yes, Mr. Washington helped him cultivate a vision of my own greatness. That internal shift was key. Brown often says, limitations are given to you by the world, but possibilities come from within. You have to nurture that inner potential.
And he's very practical about how to do that, especially with goal setting.
Very much so. He emphasizes setting clear, specific goals, not just vague dreams. Write them down. Review them daily. Visualize achieving them with real emotion.
Like his goal of buying his mother a house.
Exactly. That deeply personal, emotionally charged goal fueled his drive, gave him direction. It turned aspiration into a concrete plan of action.
He also mentions that idea of peak-to-peak living from Robert Schiller.
Yeah, the idea that once you conquer one challenge, achieve one goal, you don't just rest on your laurels. You immediately look for the next peak to climb. It's about continuous growth, always stretching yourself.
Never getting complacent.
Right. Keep moving, keep growing. And this whole theme of internal vision, self-worth, really connects deeply with Brené Brown's work.
Oh, interesting. How does her research on shame and vulnerability fit in?
Well, Brené Brown found that people who have a strong sense of love and belonging, who live what she calls wholehearted lives, share one core belief. They simply believe they are worthy of love and belonging.
It's not about being perfect.
Not at all. It's about accepting imperfection, embracing vulnerability, and knowing you are inherently worthy, flaws and all. She argues powerfully that vulnerability isn't weakness. That's a dangerous myth.
She calls it courage.
Exactly. The courage to show up and be seen, even when there are no guarantees. That's where connection, creativity, and joy come from. Shielding ourselves out of fear of shame cuts us off from those very things.
And that metaphor she uses, the album, not the picture.
It's such a helpful way to think about it. Shameful experiences are like individual photos. But they don't represent the whole album of your life, which is filled with countless other pictures: resilience, courage, joy, failure, learning, connection. Seeing the bigger picture helps build shame resilience.
It reframes the narrative. You are more than your worst moments.
Precisely. It allows you to own your story, the whole messy, beautiful thing, and cultivate that deep sense of worthiness that allows you to engage fully with the world.
That's incredibly empowering. Okay, so we've journeyed through the inner world, personal potential. Now, let's shift focus outwards. Let's talk about words that liberate oratory, aim squarely at social justice, challenging oppression.
This is where words become weapons for change, wielded by people fighting against incredible odds. Think of Sojourner Truth at that women's rights convention.
An amazing scene. A tall, black woman, formerly enslaved, standing up in a hostile environment.
Facing hissing and scorn, representing, as the account says, the two most hated elements of humanity at the time, being black and being a woman. Yet she stood, calm and dignified. Remarkable composure.
And her argument against sexism was so simple, so direct.
The pointing quart analogy. Suppose a man's mind holds a quart, and a woman's don't hold but a pint. If her pint is full, it's as good as his quart. Just cuts right through the prejudice with irrefutable logic and common sense.
Genius. And she used song, too, right?
Yes, often using song to convey messages in anti-slavery and religious gatherings. A versatile orator using every tool she had. Voice, logic, presence, even music to move people. Her power was legendary.
Truly. Then there's Frederick Douglass, using oratory to expose the hypocrisy at the heart of America.
His "What to the Slave is the 4th of July" speech is just searing, delivered on Independence Day of all days.
The ultimate irony.
And he hammers it home. Americans, your Republican politics, your Republican religion are flagrantly inconsistent. He contrasts the nation's celebrations of liberty with the brutal reality of slavery for millions.
Highlighting the stark contradictions.
Powerfully. He points out how America weeps for oppressed people in Europe, but remains cold to the 10,000 wrongs of the enslaved people within its own borders. It's a moral indictment designed to shock the conscience, to make comfortable hypocrisy impossible.
Leaving no room for excuses. And Elizabeth Cady Stanton did something similar, using America's own foundational language for women's rights.
Absolutely. Her Declaration of Sentiments brilliantly mirrors the Declaration of Independence. By adopting that structure and language, she framed women's rights not as radical new demands, but as the logical, necessary fulfillment of America's own promises of equality.
Claiming those inalienable rights for women, too.
Exactly. She anticipated ridicule and misrepresentation, but laid out the case for women's civil, social, religious, and political rights with clarity and courage. Her later Solitude of Self-Speech further emphasized individual autonomy and the need for equal rights based on that fundamental solitude.
And sadly, as the source notes mention, the struggle for true equality, like women often having those two jobs, shows these issues persist.
It does. It highlights that legal victory is crucial, but deep cultural change often lags behind. Stanton's words remain relevant because the work isn't finished.
So, challenging the status quo, demanding rights. Now, let's look at defiance in the face of active tyranny. Nelson Mandela's speech from the dock.
I am prepared to die. A remarkable piece of oratory under the most extreme pressure. Mandela wasn't just defending himself, he was explaining the ANC's shift to sabotage.
Justifying a move away from nonviolence.
Carefully, methodically, he argues it wasn't reckless, but a sober assessment after years of oppression where all peaceful, legal avenues for protest had been systematically shut down by the apartheid state.
So it was presented as a last resort.
Precisely. A necessary response to state violence and intransigence. But even while justifying sabotage, he reaffirms the ANC's ultimate goal, a democratic, non-racial South Africa where everyone belongs. He holds on to the vision even while explaining the difficult tactics.
Maintaining the moral high ground, even in advocating resistance.
Yeah.
Powerful. And then Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream speech focusing on hope and a specific, powerful metaphor.
The bad check metaphor. It's genius. America gave black people a promissory note, the Constitution and Declaration, guaranteeing rights. But that check, King says, came back marked insufficient funds.
A visceral image of a broken promise.
Instantly understandable, deeply felt. But then, the crucial pivot. We refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt.
Turning despair into demand.
Yes, we refuse to believe there aren't enough funds in the great vaults of opportunity. So, we have come to cash this check, demanding the riches of freedom and security of justice that were promised. It's a brilliant blend of exposing injustice and demanding its rectification, all wrapped in hope.
It doesn't just condemn, it calls for fulfillment, an incredibly effective strategy. And while we're talking about paving the way, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg used her words and legal strategy in a different but equally impactful way.
RBG's approach was often strategic and incremental. She embraced that Swedish concept, Vägmarken path markers, seeing herself and others as clearing the way, expanding opportunities.
And always giving credit to those before her.
Yes, emphasizing that progress is collective, built on earlier efforts. Her work with the ACLU before joining the court exemplifies this.
Those specific cases she took on, challenging sex discrimination.
Right. Cases like Charles Moritz, the man denied a caregiver deduction, or Sally Reed, the mother denied administering her son's estate simply because she was female. These weren't always obviously women's rights cases in the narrow sense.
And they were about broader principles.
Exactly. They challenged gender stereotyping and arbitrary distinctions based on sex in the law. By winning these seemingly smaller, sometimes counterintuitive cases, she established broader precedents for constitutional equality, benefiting everyone. It was a masterful long-term strategy.
Chipping away at the foundations of legal discrimination, and she made that interesting point about Congress sometimes being more responsive than the courts.
She did, citing the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. The Supreme Court made a restrictive ruling, and Congress quickly passed legislation to counteract it, reflecting perhaps a closer connection to public sentiment or evolving norms at that moment.
It shows the dynamic interplay between different branches of government in driving social change, which leads us perfectly into our final section, the responsibility that comes with all this power.
The ethics of the spoken word. We've seen its potential to persuade, empower, liberate, but with that power comes, well, a heavy weight.
Back to Plato's concerns, in a way. The need for truth.
Absolutely. Plato's ideal of rhetoric grounded in truth versus persuasion, just for the sake of winning. The ethical speaker aims not just for effectiveness, but for integrity, for truthfulness, for serving the audience's genuine well-being.
And Seneca the Stoic offered some very practical advice for protecting ourselves from harmful speech.
His advice to close your ears against evil talk right away feels so relevant now, with the constant barrage of information and opinion. He warned that depraved words stick, like a bad song you can't get out of your head.
So be mindful of what you let in. Actively filter.
It's mental self-defense, really. Recognizing that words have a lasting impact on our internal state.
And thinking about lasting impact, Elie Wiesel's perspective on memory is crucial here. The responsibility to remember and speak.
Wiesel saw remembering atrocities, what human beings have done to other human beings, as a fundamental duty, essential to preventing future tragedies. He was deeply troubled by attempts to discredit survivor testimony, the assault on memory.
Because forgetting paves the way for repetition.
That was his profound fear and conviction. Bearing witness, sharing the truth of that memory, however painful, is an ethical imperative, a form of oratory aimed at protecting humanity's future.
A heavy burden, but a vital one. This connects, interestingly, to David Foster Wallace's idea about conscious thinking.
It does. Wallace's "this is water" speech is a call to escape our default settings, our automatic way of thinking. To learn how to think means choosing what you pay attention to, choosing how you construct meaning from experience.
To avoid living unconscious, a slave to your head.
Right. It implies that ethical communication isn't just about the speaker being truthful, but also about fostering conscious, critical thinking in the listener, empowering them to discern, not just passively receive.
It's a two-way street, responsibility on both sides. Now, thinking about leadership in public discourse, Theodore Roosevelt had a strong take on criticism.
Very strong.
He saw it as a citizen's duty to criticize the government and the people fearlessly but truthfully for wrongdoing or failure. He explicitly rejected the idea that this was moral treason.
Quite the opposite, essential for a healthy democracy.
Exactly. And he believed people and government should be judged on merit, on worth, not on class. It's a call for active, honest engagement.
He also showed a willingness to act boldly, even maybe push the boundaries of his authority if he felt it was necessary.
That's the pragmatic side of TR. The coal strike intervention is a key example. He acted decisively, perhaps exceeding strict constitutional bounds, because he believed the consequences of inaction, widespread suffering, were far worse than any criticism he might face. Prioritizing the greater good over procedural purity in a crisis takes courage.
Immense courage. But of course, power isn't always wielded so pragmatically or nobly. Kurt Vonnegut offered a much more cynical view.
Vonnegut. Human beings are chimpanzees who get crazy drunk on power.
Stark, isn't it? A potent warning about the corrupting nature of power. And his advice flowing from that is crucial for listeners, especially young people.
Learn not to listen to us when we are wrong.
Yes. Acknowledging that elders, leaders, those in authority can be wrong, can make terrible mistakes in their stewardship. It's a call for critical thinking, for not blindly accepting authority. Discernment is key.
So we have the duty to criticize, but also the duty to critically evaluate those in power, even when they seem persuasive. It leads back to the impact of words, sometimes unseen, often from unexpected places.
Like Conwell's observation about unrecognized greatness. General Garfield just being Jim to his neighbor, Lincoln being Old Abe. True impact isn't always tied to fame or titles.
It can be quiet, local, rooted in character and action.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that incredible resource we all possess.
The gold mine between your ears, as Earl Nightingale called it.
That priceless human brain, the source of all creativity, all progress, all new ideas. Nightingale saw it as this vast, untapped potential within each of us, capable of solving any problem if we learn how to use it effectively.
And a key way to use it and connect with others is through asking good questions.
Nightingale really emphasized that, using those open-ended questions, who, what, when, where, why, how, not just to get information, but to build rapport, understand others deeply, and yes, even to sell ideas more effectively.
Because it shows you're listening, you're curious, you value their perspective.
Precisely. Thoughtful questioning, active listening, that's a powerful, often overlooked form of oratory itself. It builds bridges.
What a journey this has been, seriously. From Cicero's artful eloquence and Plato's deep ethical questions.
Through Quintilian's practical guide, the modern mindset gurus, the inspiring stories of Conwell and Les Brown.
To the powerful voices of social justice like Truth, Douglas, Stanton, Mandela, King, RBG, and even the complex realities of leadership and criticism with Roosevelt and Vonnegut.
It really underscores how words weave through every aspect of our lives, shaping our thoughts, motivating action, challenging injustice, building connection.
And this immense power, as we've seen, isn't just for the history books or the famous stages. It's right here, available to all of us.
Every single day, in every conversation, every email, every interaction, we're all practicing oratory all the time, whether we realize it or not.
So here's something to leave you with, a final thought to chew on. If Conwell was right, if real greatness often means doing great deeds with little memes, making a difference here now, what could be your own personal finest hour in using the power of words?
Yeah, think about that. How will you use your voice, your words responsibly, truthfully, purposeful, starting today, right where you are, to inspire, to connect, to clarify, to challenge, to uplift?
The potential is there. It's yours to wield.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep listening, and be intentional with your words.